Hi, my name is Laura Picasso Roberts. I go by Picasso, and I'm here to tell you about my near-death experience. This happened about almost 30 years ago, and let me give you a little bit of the backstory of how it all started and the what's, whys, and wheres. About 30 years ago or so, I was head over heels in love. And, the guy I was with, where he's like, let's get in a boat and go sailing. And he knew nothing about sailing, and I knew nothing about sailing, but, I was always up for an adventure. So I'll tell you that my great plans of sailing away with the love of my life never really panned out, but I got rid of him, took some sailing lessons, and then ended up getting a job down in the Caribbean. So before all of that, I never in a million years thought I'd even actually see the Caribbean. I had lived a life of trauma, lived a life of surviving and being in a constant state of surviving. So I'll say that I learned how to be courageous. And oddly enough, courage is my favorite word. So it kind of goes with who I am. I learned how to be courageous in adventure. I learned how to be courageous in work, in everything. So got rid of the guy, took some sailing lessons, got myself down to the Caribbean, and I started really living, like really understanding how beautiful this planet is and what it's like to travel and, you know, sail across the Atlantic and, learn how to cook on boats and all those kind of things. And it was exactly right up my alley. I was living, I wouldn't say that I was living fast or hard or anything like that. I worked hard and played hard and just really enjoyed all of those things that I never in a million years thought I would be able to do. So, how the whole near death experience thing came about is I was working on a boat, getting ready to start a charter season down in St. Thomas. And I was excited and, ready to start a new season. And I went one night to a celebration. Some friends were celebrating their getting married. And when you're working and you're living on boats, your vehicle, your how you get around is the dinghy. The dinghy is your car, basically. So I went to this celebration. The captain was away. He was, I don't know, helping somebody else with their boat. And I went to this celebration and I thought I'll leave it early and I'll just be, careful because it was at nighttime. So down there, we do the toast and everything, celebrating their, soon to be wedding and everything. And it's a beautiful night. It's the Caribbean. So, I mean, it's gorgeous down there, even at nighttime when you can't see anything all around you. But I was leaving early, saying my goodbyes, and I climbed down off the big boat and got into the dinghy, and I was getting ready to go, untied the painter, which is the line or line you attach to the big boat. And I'm saying goodbye. And that's the last thing that I recall in my waking mind, before the actual thing happened. What happened was, unbeknownst to me, there was a problem with the outboard and it vibrated itself into gear while I was prepping to leave. And what that did, and I'm so sorry, here's a heads up if this is going to trigger anybody, but it proceeded to flip me off the back of the dinghy and proceeded to do 360s over my face, over my arm. So I had lots of trauma, lots and lots of trauma. So what happened, not to be overly descriptive, but it's really a miracle that I'm here, and I'm really grateful that I am most days anyway. So the boat propeller on this dinghy sliced my face open from about here to here and smashed my teeth up into my sinus cavity, busted the orbit, tore the retina from the iris, made a nice gash there, nearly cut my arm off here, So a lot of icky things happened to my physical body. Well, I would tell you what happened with regards to from there on out, I felt no pain in this near-death experience. I actually left my body. This is also fascinating how what happens when you start to make that transition or you cross over, your soul departs from your physical body. I went outside my body. I was underwater and I saw the most incredible light shined on my body. And it was crazy even because I was wearing was seemed brighter because I was wearing a white shirt and light colored shorts. That was the brightest light. I can't even describe how bright it was. And it shone down on my body. Now, let me tell you, there was blood everywhere, but I did not see the blood on me and or around me. I believe God takes these things away so that it doesn't stay with us. So if I had had that visual of the blood all over me, I would have even more, trauma to heal from over the years. But God took that away from me, and I'm so grateful that that happened. But there was no blood on me. I was floating, but around my body, I saw myself floating, but I didn't feel wet. So it's a strange description. Underwater, floating, my hair's moving because it's underwater, but I didn't feel wet. It's so fascinating. So I remember floating around my body and watching all of this and noting like, wow, that light is just so bright. I was so entranced by that. And I remember, getting to a point of almost like a stall, like a pause and wondering what exactly is happening here. And I remember looking over away from me and I saw this ginormous arm, almost like Statue of Liberty size arm, had reached down and with a thought, not with swimming over or walking over, but only with a thought, did I get myself over to the arm to hang on. So all of a sudden, I'm there, like hanging on to this arm, and I felt like the tiniest little speck in contrast to the size of this arm. And I remember just kind of catching a breath and trying to figure out, like, I don't really understand what's happening here. But I hung on. And the next thing I remember is that, and I can actually feel it to this day, it was so impactful. When you're a kid and, an adult, if you get hurt or whatever, an adult will come along and kind of pat you on the head and just kind of say, hang on there, hang in. You're going to be okay. Okay, you're okay. That's what I felt. I felt that kind of little pat at the back of my head. And I actually heard, hang on, you're okay. Now, I heard it out loud. Then, in that moment, I didn't know who it was. Later, after, soul searching and, sitting in groups of people who had near-death experiences and having sessions of EMDR for trauma, I learned that it was actually Jesus. And in my experience now, when I check in with spirit, it's confirmation. They actually tell me, yeah, it was Jesus that you heard. And that's just the coolest thing ever. Imagine that. I love that Jesus makes himself so available to us in so many ways. Now, listen, I'm not a religious person. I don't go to church. Not that that's not okay. For some people, that's okay. But for me, it's just not my thing. So it's just an odd thing for me to have that experience. So let's go back to the actual near death part of it. So I'm there hanging on. I hear that voice. And then I don't know how long I was down. I was down for some time because people couldn't get to me because that dinghy was doing circles. It was stuck in gear and at full throttle right over the top of me. So it took a lot of doing. People really risked their lives to save mine, which is just, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. But they did. They did save my life. And so all of those things that happened there, And then all of a sudden, I'm out completely blank again. The next thing I remember is waking up in a dinghy ride. I'm in the sort of the lap of a friend of mine that was on that boat, the one that I was saying goodbye to. And I remember waking up and going, "Where are we going?" She says, "We're taking you to the hospital, you idiot." And I said, "I don't need a doctor." And then I passed out again. But it was at that moment in time, they hadn't seen that my arm had almost been cut off completely. And my arm flipped over, and, it made them panic even more. And it was all quite traumatic. But they got me to the dock, and this is the Caribbean, and it takes a long time for anything to happen. We call that island time. And this happened in the middle of the night. So it was like 11 o'clock at night when I was leaving that boat. So all of this stuff happened, and they got me ashore, and then it took a really long time to get an ambulance to come and get me. And then it took almost an hour to get me from the dock to the hospital, which would have been about a 10-minute walk normally, but they had trouble keeping me, I don't know, finding an IV, vein that they could use. I don't know what the problem was, but I woke up a couple of different times throughout, and then I pass out again. There was a sense of, I don't want to say there was such a huge amount of peace when I was on the other side. This is a description that I don't want anybody to bypass because it's so important that you understand this. And I can't believe I zipped right over that. So when I'm on the other side, I feel pure love, pure peace, and absolutely no pain. There was no pain, even though I was sliced open. There was no pain when I was in the dinghy, them taking me, towards the dock. God took my pain away, and I'm so grateful. So I want you to understand that when the soul leaves the body, there is no pain. There's no pain. It was just absolutely the most beautiful, pure peace, pure love that you can ever imagine. And up to that point in my soul's journey, I had never experienced love in any kind of way, but especially in that way, just pure unconditional love. So I am so grateful. Out of all the things that have happened to me, that is the most important thing to know that exists. Whether you feel it in this lifetime or you feel it once you've transitioned and you're on the other side, it is just one of those things that you get to look forward to no matter what. So I want to make sure that that comes across, and how I could forget that, who knows? But it was so beautiful in that way. So that being said, made my way to the hospital. It was crazy. Lots of weird things happened. But if you ever get injured in the Caribbean, best thing to do is probably go to the airport. Just saying. Once I got through the initial surviving surgery at the hospital in St. Thomas, I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And then I went back to the United States and had the reattachment of the retina to the iris. And then over the next, I don't know, couple years, several years, whatever, I had about 13 surgeries to put myself back together. And in between each surgery, I tried to dial it in or line it up where I was working in between surgeries, because that was the only way I could survive. I didn't come from money. I have worked since I'm 14 years old, and there was really nobody to help me uh, get through anything. There was, I stayed sort of couch surfed with some friends and did the surgeries, and then I'd go back to work, and I'd end a season and then come back, do some more, surgeries, and then go back to work. And that's just kind of how it went. It was in these times and in between surgeries, and I got through all the healing. This happened on December 17th in 1994. So it was all the way up until I worked on boats until about 2002. So it was several years of doing that, bouncing around, getting my body kind of dialed in with the surgeries that needed to happen and things like that, and working and living and surviving. It was about 2002 that I started getting into some therapy to help me better understand what really happened and decipher the dreams that I was having, because I was having nightmares. I was hearing things that were not nice. I was hearing sounds and having very vivid dreams and getting visuals of things. Uh, my body was recalling or remembering the physical aspect of what happened to me. And so moving forward, what I came to understand is somebody recommended something called EMDR, and that is for post traumatic stress disorder. So EMDR, I believe it's called eye movement resocialization. I think it's called. It was created back, I think, in the 60s when people were coming back from Vietnam, dealing with the trauma that they went through there. It's a fascinating experience. It just helped me on so many levels. So anybody going through trauma, highly recommend it. So during the time of therapy, I realized I was getting healing on the inside, which is really what I needed. So all those physical surgeries helped me, but the healing I needed was on the inside. So I did that and then, kept working and surviving and this and that. And I wasn't stopping. I wasn't slowing down to look at this spiritual aspect of what happened to me. So when you don't pay attention, you get special orders from spirit or from God. So spirit sent me a little visitation. So I was living on my own boat in the Keys down in Islamorada. I was working in a little shop, and it was during hurricane season. So there was a lot of evacuations and things like that year. But living on my boat, working at the little shop, and I had a visitation from this spiritual being 2 days in a row inside the shop. It was the craziest thing. And one of the things that I was told by this being is that you're meant to be here to help others heal. And I thought, well, okay, how am I going to do that? I don't know what that really means. So I took that in, I absorbed it. There were a lot of things said from this being, but that's a whole nother story. So we're just going to park that. Let's focus in on what happened after. After that visitation, hurricane came through, I evacuated. It messed up my engine, and I had to haul the engine out and, stay at a hotel while that work was being done. I went into this sort of, I don't know, frustration and depression and, things like, what am I going to do? Why is this happening to me? Kind of whining to myself. And I got the urge to, like, you're supposed to be doing something. And so, just like the being said, you're here for a reason. You're supposed to be doing something. So I turned my attentions toward what can I do? And I saw this thing on this stupid little hotel TV about a massage therapy program. So I hopped in my car and I went to this school up in Pompano Beach, and I talked to the lady. I said, you have an associate's program. I never got to go to college when I was younger. So I'd like to go to your massage school, but I want to be in that associate's program so I can actually get a degree of some sorts. And she toured me, nicest lady ever. She toured me through the school, and it happened to be on a Sunday, I think it was. And we got through the whole thing, and I'm signing up, I'm doing the paperwork. And she asked me, she says, why is it that you want to go back to school? Why are you choosing massage? And because I was 40 years old at that point. Why is a 40-year-old woman going back to school to go do massage? And I looked at her and I repeated exactly what the being told me is that you're here to give back. And I told her, I said, I'm here to give back. I said, I've been through a lot of things in my life, and it's now time to focus on things that are not about me, but about helping others. And so it was the end of our conversation. I was signing and dating the document. And that was when I knew I was in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, because the date of that document being signed was December 17th. That's the same date of my near-death experience. So that was the big tell and the beginning of healing and the beginning of helping others heal. So I'm going to fast track this. What happened after that? It seems like a very short period of time, but everything happened so fast. I went to the massage school. I started learning Reiki, which is just an amazing way to help others heal through source, through God energy or light energy. I became a Reiki master. I started having interest in channeling, working with the pendulum. I started studying under Sally Baldwin, who channeled a collective called Michael. You can learn about Michael. It's a collective of 1,050 souls. They are just an amazing collective. I channel them to this day. So I started working with Michael, channeling. I started hearing things. I started feeling things. I started getting, like, everything started waking up with me after I finally agreed to start doing the work that I was here for, that I was meant to do. So I did that. I was channeling. I was hearing messages while I was massaging people. So all of those, I'm sure you guys have heard about, the clairs, the clairvoyance, the clair sentience, the clair audio, all the clairs. All of those were happening to me all at the same time. And it was a little overwhelming because when energy is big and loud, it can be, I mean, we can handle a lot, but when it's all happening all at once, it can be a little overwhelming. Fun, but overwhelming. So I just kept on, I kept on progressing. I kept on learning. So I went a little deeper into the channeling aspect of things. I started learning to do soul chart readings based on the Michael teachings. And as we do, we progress as souls. That's what we're here for. So as we progress as souls, things get a little more active, I guess. So it went from doing massage and Reiki and a little channeling to more soul chart readings, to more about the growth of the soul, really progressing my soul and healing some of that darkness that I lived through in my earlier days, not just the accident, but all the trauma that happened before that. And I was doing the work and having those connections with spirit, my spirit guides, my team, and just really growing. Now, I say that. Does that mean that I didn't have any dips or, slide backs or pauses? Of course I did. I'm hard-headed. So yes, I had dips of depression or dips of, pauses in my life where, I'd yell at spirit or yell at God and then, realize, oh, hang on a second, I'm going to be okay. Sorry, God. And just, we're all human. So, we go through these things, but ultimately it's about the progression of the soul. So we get through our stuff and then we progress on. And it's all quite fascinating when you start paying attention. I'll tell you that it takes a lot of courage to stay in this life. And I'm so glad that I stayed. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to feel what it feels like to be on the other side. I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to help others through some of their experiences. I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to connect with spirit, to give messages for other people. It is just something that I never in a million years would have thought that I'd be a part of. I didn't grow up this way. I am now a medium. I do psychic work, I do mediumship, I do intuitive wellness scans, all of these things that happen to me, and I work with spirit now. These are not things that I had part of when I was young. I didn't grow up seeing dead people and, hearing spirit messages when I was little. Not even when I was a teenager. I sure could have used the spirit by my side then. And look, they were there. It's just that I wasn't ready. So, yeah, it was a lot to take in going through the aspect of the dying and, coming back and healing all of the layers and parts that are connected to all of that. But what's even more important than that, for my experience, and everybody's different, but for me, it's not always what I went through in that near-death experience. It's what I did after. And it took several years for me to realize all the alls, all the things that happened to me, and to heal the different layers of those things that happened. It wasn't always pretty, People stood in judgment with regards to the accident that happened to me. People were not nice. People would stare at me, when they would see the scar on my face, or, know that there's something different or in out of balance with regards to my face because of the nerve damage and, things like that. People are funny, but I mean, we're all human. So it's okay that I don't take it personally anymore. I did when I was healing, but I don't anymore. I mean, we're all different and we're all in different places. We all have our story. And the biggest thing that I've learned from all of this is that it's not just about me and my experience. While I'm here and I'm able to give back, it's about being able to connect for spirit. It's being able to give spirit a voice so that they can then get their messages through to their loved ones that are still living here. It's really hard when you have to deal with grief and loss, and, whether it's a family member or a pet or, any of those things. Grief is a very powerful emotion. And when your loved one is on the other side, it can be frustrating for them because they're trying to get messages through, and you're so embedded in your grief that you're not hearing, you're not paying attention, so it's like a wall between you. That's where somebody like me comes in. So I sacrificed my position on this planet as a regular human being. I sacrificed and have agreed to be here to be able to be the one to get the messages through. So from spirit through me to you, so that you both can understand that we don't really die, that we don't, have a non-existence once we've exited the body. We do carry on. And that's one of the biggest things that spirit tends to give, their message is typically, look, I'm okay. Things are beautiful here. Things are peaceful. I want you to know I'm all right, that we don't really die, that I am still around you. And I love being able to give evidential-based messages and or meanings to people so that they can then carry on and heal their life experience and their grief and all of that. So to sum up, one of the most powerful things that I've done since I started working with spirit is I started writing. I wrote a book, wrote my story. It's called Walking the Way. It's a story of strength and courage and my introduction to spirit. Now, never in a million gazillion years would I have ever thought that I could write a book. Now, look, it's not a war and peace novel. It's my story. My story has helped so many people survive. They've survived trauma and illness like I have. And I believe the reason I've had all of these things happen to me is so that I can also help people get through their traumas and their stories and get to a place of healing. So in 2020, when the world went sideways with COVID, I had just finished my book. I was ready to take it out and, get it into bookshops and, talk to different people. I had self-published, so I had to bang my own drum, really, to make sure that it gets attention. So, and then the world shut down. So I wasn't able to do that. Well, one of the things that, during that whole COVID shutdown time, I had many conversations with spirit, like, what in the hell? What are we doing? Why is this happening? I just had this book ready to tell my story, ready for other people to hear it. What the hell? So they're like, spirit's just telling me to chill, relax, breathe, pause, take a moment. I sat in a session one day and I said, let's do something. So during the beginning of COVID, connected with my master guide, who's absolutely a crack up. He has a wicked sense of humor. And I said, you know what? Do a deck, an oracle deck. So I created my oracle deck called I'm No Angel, but I'm Trying. My first series, it's very expensive to do, so there aren't any in stock right now. I just want to give you the heads up. But I sat down and channeled messages for this oracle deck with my master guide. And anybody who knows me knows I have potty mouth. And so, the whole thing with the I'm no angel, but I'm trying. Look, I do the best I can. Some of the messages aren't exactly for anybody, underage people, whatever. So some of the messages have cuss words because I cuss, but they're a lot of fun. They were so much fun to channel the messages. And I kept checking in with my spirit guide. I'm like, I can't put this on a card. And he's like, yep, you can. And the whole point of doing that was to make me laugh, to lighten my load, to make other people laugh, to lighten their load. And the messages that came through are such a crack up. So I wrote a book, I created an oracle deck, and I continued with the growth of the spiritual side of what I do now. So I progressed the mediumship thing, part of me. I ended up going to Arthur Findlay College in the UK and studied for a week over there. Would I love to take a full-on study over there? I would, but it's pretty expensive, so I wasn't able to do that. But I've done the best that I can, and I've helped actually quite a lot of people. So I'm super grateful to have done that so far. So I'm going to wrap this part of my story shared to you that even though we start out in life, a certain way on a trajectory that we think is right and how we're supposed to be, don't be surprised if God's got a different path for you, and be okay with taking it when it gets put in front of you. Have the courage to trust and embrace, some of the things that are put in front of you. Call it part of the adventure, call it part of the fun, even though sometimes it can be not so much fun. Try to go with the flow a little bit and enjoy reasons why you're here. If you're not sure why you're here, ask. Ask it in a meditation, ask it in a prayer, ask however it is that you want to ask. All right. Let me just tell you, if you want to know how to connect with me, I have a website. It's called mediumshipbypicasso.com, and I have a YouTube channel. Please feel free to zip on over. It's also Mediumship by Picasso. And when you're there, like and subscribe any of the videos. I so appreciate you. And there will be other books coming. Part of this experience is for me to get it out there and share more. So we'll do that. You can buy my book on my website, or you can buy it on Amazon. It's called Walking the Way, A Story of Strength, Courage, and My Introduction to Spirit. Take it, read it, share. And yeah, I think that's it.